Hi, this is Dan McClosky. You're about to hear an interview with Chris Cain. He's an outstanding blues guitarist, singer, and composer. The lyrics in this opening song tell his introduction to the blues.
I was born on the 19th of November, back in 1955. And my mother and father taught me what I needed in this world to survive. Taught me about grace and kindness in a house full of music, hope, and joy. Where my father showed me the first thing on his guitar when I was a little 8-year-old boy. We saw B.B. King and Ray Charles every time they came to play with so much love and feeling, I can still hear it today. My father let me play his guitar anytime or any place. He told me to never play it if I don't feel it, and always remember to put it back in the case.
That's a song called Born to Play, and that's Chris Cain talking about his musical upbringing. And we are lucky enough to have Chris Cain here talking with us. My name is Dan McClosky. We're up here in Copperopolis in the hills in Gold Country. Wanted to ask you some questions, obviously, about what that song mentioned in it. Talk about your upbringing, how you started on this.
Well, my father and mother were both really big music fans, and just in general, they loved a lot of different things. And my father was a big blues fan, and so we would always go see B.B. King every time he came. It was like once or twice a year at the Civic Auditorium, and Ray Charles. And so I got to see a bunch of people. When I was little, my brothers and I got to go to a lot of shows, and he would just put us in front of the band. And at the time, I was thinking about the fact that we were going to stop at the Pancake House later or something, you know what I mean? But then it would be like B.B. King or like, Fats Domino, many different things. So I was really lucky like that. And he had great records, so I heard a lot of good stuff. And they didn't really try to force it on me. They just kind of had it on, and then I would notice it, and I started asking questions about it.
How old were you when you first heard live music, live blues?
Oh, God, one time when I was like 3 or 4, it was like my birthday, and they went to see B.B. King, and they handed me to B.B., and he picked me up, and he asked me what I wanted to hear. Uh-huh. And I said rock and roll, and then when the band started, it was so loud, I started crying. And just.
Where was this?
At San Jose Civic Auditorium.
You would go with your brothers?
Both my brothers, Tootie and Rex, would go, and my mother and father, and And then after that, we'd go to either like the pancake place or the taco place and have like, late dinner, and it was gas.
So they'd give you an incentive.
Yeah. But my dad, loved B.B. King. And, this is before internet, when he played like these little places like the Swahili Room was one of them. And he would always know what he was playing. I don't know how the hell he knew, but he never missed. I mean, it was just amazing to me how he would find out, but he did always.
He was a truck driver, right?
He drove for Cancilla Trucking in San Jose. They would haul cans.
Was it a big truck, like a semi?
Yeah, it was like an 18-wheeler, That's what he drove all of his life.
Tell us a little about both your folks. Where are they from?
My dad was born in Alexandria, Louisiana. And he grew up there until he was about 11. And then he moved to Memphis with his aunt and lived there. And he lived on Beale Street, like right above the Busy Bee Cab Company. And it's like he would tell me stories about Beale Street all the time. When I finally went there, I wanted him to go, but he wouldn't fly. First time I went to Memphis, everything he told me was there. It was like the New Daisy. It was like all the stuff, it was like Handy Park. It was a total gas to go there and then see all that stuff. When I played there, one time I was playing at Huey's, and these two little black ladies came. It was like my great aunt that did the Cotton Carnival Jubilee in Memphis. And she came with her little friend, like with little pillbox hats and stuff, and like they came and said hi to me. It was like, it was amazing, I mean, like that I had relatives I didn't even know.
Do you remember any of the stories your dad told?
Oh yeah, it was like on Saturdays, guys would come from like the country, like who come to Memphis, like blues guys, and they would play like in Handy Park. So he saw a lot of like people that were not known, but like they were really good.
What years did he live there?
He was 11 or something when he moved there from Louisiana, and he lived there, I guess, for 4 or 5 years.
Was he a musician?
No, he wasn't a musician, but he bought a guitar and an amp, and he figured out a little set of tunes and a little arrangements. He said that on Sunday he'd put his tie on and go in the garage and he'd play like his set, And he could play a little piano, too. He was just a beautiful guy because I knew it was in the case and I knew it was in the closet. And he goes, listen, you can play that thing anytime. If you want to get it out, you want to look at it, whatever you want to do with it, just always put it back in the case. That's all you have to do. But I broke strings, so at some point I was down to like, 4 strings, but not like 4 in a row, like one here, one, And yet I knew my little set of tunes on that. It was like I was figuring things out. So then like on my 9th birthday or something, they got me a regular guitar with like 6 strings. Couldn't play anything. Couldn't play one of my tunes. It was like, this guitar that I was playing, I wasn't in tune. It was just tuned whatever it was, and that's how I.
Were you self-taught?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, they got a teacher in the beginning, but like the guy was, for like 3 weeks, he was trying to show me how to hold it. My dad would always laugh about that, like, you wanted to get rid of the teacher, like he's holding you back,
Now, how about your brothers? Did they play?
No, but they love it. I mean, all the same records that I love, they love. It's just that I was the only guy, I think, nutty enough to lock myself in a room with like a record player,
How would you spend your time on a given day? Say you're 11 years old.
I would probably go to school, then always come home, and then I'd play the guitar for a while, play at it. I was always just really drawn to it, always, from the beginning. It had like a drawing power to me, and it was great that he just told me right out of the gates, hey, you can do what you want with it, but just always put it back. That's all and they had a player piano that his boss gave to my family, and it came with all these reels of music.
The old paper reels, right? So
yeah.
You could put them in, and it was played by itself.
Yeah, and it was amazing. You had to pump it, sit there and like somebody had to pedal it, So my dad figured out some things on piano. He was, he had an ear. First thing he ever showed me was when I was 8 years old. He showed me, "Baby, please don't go in the key of E." When I see it now, I just go, man, that's amazing how he just figured out how little arrangement he could play, and it all worked. It was very good.
Would he prefer, do you think, to have been a musician if he could have?
I think he would have wanted to be like a disc jockey because he would sit in the house and he would make playlists of stuff like he was on a radio station. He loved to do that.
He's Afro-American.
Yes.
And your mom is?
Greek. My mom grew up in Modesto with her grandparents. She moved to San Jose and married my brother's father. And my father came from Memphis, or like wherever he was at that point, to the war and joined the Navy. So then he was stationed in Monterey at Fort Ord.
This was World War II.
Yeah. And so that's how they met when he was here in the Navy, and then I came along,
Was either one of them a singer?
No, I mean, my mother could sing, and my aunt, both of them were like song ladies. They would listen Sarah Vaughan sing Stardust, and they go, she just left out 12 bars. It's the best part of the song. I can't believe. I don't know why she's not singing the melody. She's just, Papa do, you know, it's like she didn't understand the scatting thing that much, but that's how she was. You know, she's very eclectic. I mean, she liked Sinatra, liked all that stuff, but she loved blues. And then she loved, like, Country Joe and the Fish. I mean, she was, like, really eclectic, my mom. She worked at San Jose State in 1967 through 1970. So she was in touch with what everybody was into. She told me about Mike Bloomfield because I didn't. She goes, oh, you know, she knew all about him already. And my dad liked blues, and he liked like a little bit of country stuff, but he was just a stone blues guy, really, you know.
And he obviously had a good way of getting to know the musicians, because you say he would bring you backstage to meet B.B.
A black gentleman in a suit, I guess they would just assume he must be with the band, you know what I mean? Because he like have a hat and suit and tie. So I went backstage. I met like a ton of people. I mean, I met Albert King, Freddie King. One time, like he took me to see Creedence Clearwater when they first came out, and asked the light guys if I could sit up while they were doing the light show. So I went up there, and you know, I could smell the pot, you know. Excellent evening.
And you were how old then?
Just about to go into high school. I was in junior high. Because Creedence Clearwater was like around 67, and I was like in 7th grade.
You were born in 56, right?
55.
Oh, 55, yeah. And you listened to a lot of jazz growing up, right?
Yeah, when my brother went to Vietnam, he came back from Vietnam. He had like about 7 records. He had Sidewinder by Lee Morgan, and a couple by Wes Montgomery, and one with George Shearing and the Montgomery Brothers, and Thelonious Monk, Straight No Chaser. And so I started like listening to those as just kind of background music when I was doing my thing in my room, and I started digging the sound of the jazz, like bands, the records. I had favorite tunes now. So that just led me to listening to more jazz and listening to K-Jazz all the time. That's why my radio was always on K-Jazz, you know.
What are some of the earliest recordings that influenced you in blues?
Oh, well, I had this rocking horse. They got me for Christmas. I would love to rock to these records. And, like, my favorite records to rock to at the time was, like, Rock House, Ray Charles, and ding, ding, ding. It was just, like, perfect for rocking on your horse, you know what I mean? My dad had this one B.B. King record that he loved, like, and so he just kept playing it over and over until my mom went and got fingernail polish and put it on that one tune, right? Then my dad took the hi-fi and flew it out in the front yard somewhere, and that was the end of the concert that night. But love is funny, but...
Do you remember the song, the B.B. King song?
No, man, but it was on that album, The Blues.
So he liked to repeat records.
You know, that's where I get it, man, because if I find a favorite tune that I like haven't heard and it strikes my thing, I'll make it, the whole side will be that tune just over and over. And every time it ends, I'm just kind of bummed, you know. It's like, I mean, I don't want it to end. The first time I ever heard Hard Times by Ray Charles, I was on tour in Canada with my band. First time we had gone on a road trip. And I had never heard Hard Times. I heard all these Ray records, somehow never heard that tune. And man, I mean... that thing blew my mind, and I couldn't get enough of it when I was in Canada. I was playing that thing day and night. It was like the band thought I was losing my mind, but I couldn't believe I didn't know about this tune, you know?
My mother told me before she passed away, said, son, when I'm gone, don't forget to pray, 'cause there'll be hard times. hard times. Oh yeah, yeah. Who knows better than I?
I love that tune, you know, it's beautiful. Just the way he plays it and sings it, all that stuff.
Would you mind playing your version of it? It'd be really nice to hear play a little bit of it on the piano.
Okay. My mother told me, before she passed away, said, son, when I'm gone, don't forget to pray, 'cause there'll be hard times, oh yeah, yeah, who knows better than I? I love Ray Charles. I love him today. I mean, I lost my mind when I really heard that. We would go see him, and it was like something you never forget. The first time you see Ray Charles as a kid, it's really exciting. By the time it's over, I mean, even as a child, you knew that's the greatest guy you'd ever see in your life. You know what I mean? Things that he would play, the way the band would play, the way the Raylettes would interact. It was, even as a kid, I mean, we knew that was good stuff, you know. You know, San Jose Civic Auditorium was like the place where you could see Fats Domino, or if somebody was coming through town, that would be the place where you would see them. You know, like Chuck Willis was there. Johnny Otis show. We never missed Johnny Otis show either. It was like, that was like big. My father loved it, because like at the end of the whole show, he said, "Bye bye baby." He'd do that tune, like, and they'd go off. I mean, everybody had like a theme song or something. When we saw James Brown, 1965 on Christmas night, my dad took me. It was like when Papa's got a brand new bag had just come out. At the end of the whole concert, he came out with like a little suitcase on one foot, like he was hitchhiking to the next town. And that stuff, you would never forget that, you know what I mean? It's just like etched in you.
The one and only James Brown! Up in the street, and you hear what's that you breathe, babe? Ain't no drag. Papa's got a brand new bag.
What's so cool is that your dad really wanted to educate you about the music.
And I think, you know, he knew that if he said, hey, this is good, like, dig this, that, you know, like young people tend to just go, oh, my dad likes it, I can't, you know what I mean? But he never did that. He just kind of would put me in front of these bandstands.
And how about your mom? She didn't want to go?
Oh, my mom was always there. My mom took me to see the Beatles on a school day.
The Beatles?
Yeah, at Cow Palace, man, on a school day. My mom, that's how cool she was. I mean, it was like, not only am I going to see the Beatles, but I'm missing school to see the Beatles.
Could you hear them there?
You heard like maybe like the version 1, 2, dang, maybe like half a chord, and then it was like, ha! And that particular year, they had these popcorn dispensers that like that, and then you pop the bottom out, and it's like a little megaphone. So all these girls had these little megaphones, and I think the PA system was probably like a Shure Vocal Master or something. So, I mean, it's like as soon as the tune would start, everybody with those things, you couldn't, you know. But I mean, still, just to see them doing it right up there, it was all day long. Every band that you ever thought of was at this thing. And then, you know, they keep hyping it up with a guy with a Beatle wig would come out and go crazy. And then finally the Beatles came on, you know. And I think their set was maybe like 15, 20 minutes, but it was exciting to me, man. I was,
That's impressive.
oh, man.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. We'd like to carry on now.
I saw the Stones 1965 at the Civic Auditorium where the Byrds were opening. That's the first time I ever heard a fuzz tone. First time I ever saw a Sunburst Les Paul. I mean, it was like, what is that guitar? I dug that thing then, you know what I mean?
So when did you start playing in a band?
When I was in high school, I played with fellas. It wasn't like a band, but we would jam. When they would have parties, we would go there and play because, there was beer. We could play loud. And that's where I really started playing with human beings and playing with my pals, you know what I mean? That was a wonderful time.
And what kind of music were you playing?
Right around that time, I got my first Gibson, like it was a SG Standard. And,
It's a solid body, right?
Yeah. And we'd seen Woodstock, you know what I mean? So it was like, I was like totally, I lost my mind after I saw that movie. First time I ever played with guys, they came to my house and we had a reel-to-reel tape. We put a reel on there and we played one shuffle for like the whole reel. We never stopped. It was like the greatest thing we ever did in our lives, I thought.
So you were playing blues even then?
Yeah, we knew how to play, the bass player knew how to play a shuffle and slow blues. He was totally into Michael Bloomfield, and I was too, so it was like like-minded guys.
She got more nerve than a bad tooth. Got a troublemaking woman. Got more nerve than a bad tooth. Lots of people told me she was evil. And I'm here to tell you that's the truth. I've got a troublemaking woman. She like to argue, never fun. Hey, I got a troublemaking woman. She like to argue, never fun. She rather fight than live. Well, in the first sign of trouble, partner, she'd rather fight than run.
Chris Cain.
Hey, I got a trouble-making woman. She's not afraid of the man. Hey, I got a trouble-making woman. She's not afraid of the man. Well, the first of the trouble. Hey, she hurt you any way she can. Chris Cain.
You know, there was a kind of a music scene too in San Jose. There was a blues guy in San Jose. His name was Nick Dussart that my dad used to go see at this club called Brown's. That's where they would go see Jimmy Witherspoon when he would come. He'd play there. This guy, Nick Dussart, was like he had a band. One time my dad talked the whole band after their gig to come to the house and play a couple tunes. I mean, they did it, you know. Yeah, my dad was a gas man. He was really just a great. He never like had any kind of racial color. He was never like, you know, these people, none of that stuff. My dad was a really beautiful person, and like, I mean, if he did get mad, it was terrifying. I only saw him like mad, like I think 3 times, and every time I almost needed counseling. Just like he wouldn't say anything, but man, he looked like a shark's eyes. Like his eyes would look like buttons, like they just would change. He was like spooky. Only time my dad ever got mad at me, one time I talked back to my mother. I was in high school. I just talked back to her, yeah. And there was like a Freddie King album. Freddie King gives you a bonanza of instrumentals. He's all happy on the cover. And he took that record and he used to hit me on the top of the head with his thing. And I'm thinking, this record has got to break. And he's like, don't ever, as long as, it was one of those kind of things, right? You know, and this record just seemed to get thicker and thicker. It never broke. It was like, I didn't listen to Remington Wright, I think, for 15 years after that. I was like, God.
Oh, Freddie King was a master and a monster guitar player. That record couldn't break. It wasn't allowed.
Man, you know, I mean, I was going, when they said Unbreakable, I saw it on the cover, but yes, very unbreakable.
So that's in high school. You're playing with this band.
Yeah.
And then after that, what happened?
After high school ended, I was at my mom's house, basically sitting around the house playing my guitar and, watching TV and stuff. And then I was playing with this group of guys. I started the band, but I got kicked out of my own band. So then I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to learn how to read music. I'm going to start making dog food commercials and stuff, make some cash. These guys would be solely mad, this would be great, out of spite. So then I went to school, and my parents were, concerned that, it might mess up my playing, because I was playing by ear, and, these guys played with books, and, I said, I think, I'll just get what I need. It won't really affect my, thing. And it didn't. So I went there from 8 o'clock till 8 o'clock at night. I would have went longer if they had more stuff, but, it was beautiful. Eventually became instructional aide in the jazz improv class, and it really was a wonderful thing for me. And to have these classical guys that were like Jedi guys take me under their wing and kind of help me, they could see that I had some kind of something. And then from that, I met guys in college that I ended up starting my first band with, and that's how that whole thing started. Going to San Jose City College was it's like one of my favorite times in my life,
Wow, you really learned about music in an entirely different way.
Yeah, because I had learned all this stuff, just from word of mouth and from seeing. And then now there's this other thing that like I didn't realize that there's song form, blues form, all these different things. So when I would try to learn something on these jazz records, I could never memorize it like I could memorize blues stuff because it was all these changes that I didn't know, And that was beautiful to like be able to learn that stuff. And I saw Robin Ford one time play at a Guitar Explosion with like T-Bone Walker. There was like blues guys, there was jazz guys, but they all had to play with the same trio. And some guys couldn't really communicate. They just didn't know how to, so they could play maybe a slow blues, maybe a funky kind of thing, and a shuffle, and that was about it, you know what I mean? And then Robin Ford comes out there, and he goes, bzz, 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 and he says something like, just like about 30 seconds of chat, and then with this whole arrangement, and I go, what the hell did he just say in like 30 seconds that like everybody knew? And I'm going, I got to learn that music talk because, I was amazed that when I saw that before my eyes, I go, see, that right there is a crucial thing because, what do? You meet somebody, how do you, you know what I mean? And it was like, that blew my mind. I was thinking about that too when I went there. I met a lot of wonderful people and like the teachers were so great to me. I love those guys.
Is that where you learned to play sax?
I knew guys that played saxophone. And I dug saxophone. I loved Cannonball and I loved Lester. All of a sudden I started getting into these guys. So I went to a Denny's in Los Gatos and met a guy in the parking lot and bought this alto for like $75. And so I took that thing home and I started like trying to learn stuff on these Charlie Parker tunes. My parents were very tolerant, you know what I mean? Like,
was anybody instructing you on the sax?
No, this is like all just stuff like that I was doing just on my own, heads of tunes like and like some licks and things. So I could play like in B flat or the key of F. I could play a couple of tunes. I could solo a little bit, But it was for me. It was like so fun to do that. And plus, I was taking clarinet. The only instruments that I've never been able to make pals with is like drums and harmonic. I can't play anything on any of those.
So you play obviously electric guitar. You play acoustic as well, and then piano. And sax.
Clarinet.
Bass?
Yeah, bass. I love bass, man. I got really into bass. I would come home from my gigs and I would turn on the drum machine and I would just play with the drum machine. It was like great meditation. Like you get into a groove, you find these ostinato patterns. You just play for hours.
So, as far as instruction and like in learning to play piano, it's all self-taught as well.
Yeah. My teacher, he was also my clarinet teacher. He was like the greatest clarinet player I ever heard. He was also my piano guy. In the mornings when I would play whatever the assignment was, he would just see my fingers. He'd go, Christopher, I can't even watch this. I had none of the right fingering. I would run out of fingers, and then my thumb would just pick up all the slack, And it's like, he would go, I'm going to pass that, but I can't watch it, Christopher. It's, because I'm just like... And the thing was, as soon as I heard it one time, I would have it memorized. So... when I was with the big band, I would just record the rehearsal, and then I would take it home that night, and I would just memorize the whole thing. And then, I go in there, and I was fine.
So, like with guitar solos, would you play a solo over and over again and just try to master it?
Yeah, when I would come home from school, because we loved Michael Bloomfield, like, in such a way. We'd never seen him live. We dug these, like, few little records. We wore out copy after copy of, like, Live at Bill Graham's and stuff, because, we loved that thing, you know what I mean? And when we read the review that they put, like, in Rolling Stones, like, the guitar's out of tune and stuff, I was like, these guys are out of their minds. I couldn't believe they were saying it, But, we love that stuff. So anything involving something about Michael Bloomfield was, like, just big stuff to us. To finally see him at Fillmore was like, oh, my God. That was the only guy I ever saw that, like, looked like me. It could be, like, one of my pals. And I'm thinking, man, this can be done. Because he played with, like, so much soul and break it down to a whisper. It's just like, it was like everything I loved about B.B. King, he was doing. When I heard that, I was like, I know where this guy got this stuff from.
Did you hear him with Butterfield?
Only on record, you know what I mean?
You never saw him eat fire then?
I did. I saw him eat fire when he did a gig at the Fox Theater in San Jose, and I went there with my pals, and it was like him and Al Cooper, my friend Sammy Varela. He would just meet, like he met Elvin Bishop, and he would just sit in with Elvin Bishop. At that time in my life, I was like, there's no way I'm ever getting up with any of these guys. Like, I mean, he was fearless, and they dug his playing and stuff, and so he knew Bloomfield kind of. So we went backstage, and Bloomfield was back there, and he got those rods out and stuff, the fire-eating kit like thing, and he ate fire. And I mean, I was like, he eats fire? I'm like, you know, it was just, to me, it was like just wow. I mean, like, you know.
He did that when I saw him in '67 at the Fillmore with Butterfield. I just have a vision in my mind, you know, he's playing guitar, and then all of a sudden he's got, like you see in a circus, you
That's
know, fire would go into his mouth and out of his mouth.
It was amazing, man.
And it never burnt himself.
No, he's got these little rags and then these metal rods that he used, like in the whole. I mean, it was professional fire eating when he did it. I mean, I was like, wow.
So he brought, even though he wasn't going to do that on stage,
he had it backstage, and he did it. It was awesome, man. It was like, I never idolized a sports figure or anybody. Like Michael Bloomfield was just in my world at that time. Was like, my God, I just thought that was the greatest thing I'd ever seen or heard.
Did you get to talk to Mike when you were backstage?
You know, after my first time when I first saw him at Fillmore, and I went up to him and I said, you know, I can't believe this. And he goes, well, man, seeing is believing. And I go, well, maybe we could jam sometime. He goes, yeah, man, maybe. And he finished like a 7-Up, and he walked off, and I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, I just talked to Bloomfield. But then I knew, and I read things after this about how like he felt about when people were just like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And I'm the worst case of that. So every time I saw him after that, I just kept my mouth shut and stayed in the background and just watched whatever transpired, right?
So you got to see him a number of times.
Yeah. One time we saw him at Pepperland in San Rafael, and he gets up there and he plays like about one tune, and then this guy in the audience says, hey, I play guitar, and then Bloomfield gives him the guitar, and the guy like does like about 6 tunes, and the Bloomfield's nowhere to be found. I'm like, no, man. You know, and like when these guys would be like at his gigs, and they could say, hey, I play guitar, I would be like, you know, because I was just like, no, man, don't, please. don't do this.
And Mike just was looking for an excuse not to have to be
you know, I had no idea, but it was just like, oh, but this guy, you know, at Pepperland, I mean, it was like, you know, I mean, I think we could play as good as he played, you know going.
I'm sure you could play better.
Going to San Rafael was like going to, you know, Africa back then, you know, for us, you know.
It's a long distance from San Jose.
Nutty, you know, I mean, the first times I ever went to the Fillmore, it was like going to another planet, man, you know.
Was this the old Fillmore or Fillmore West?
Oh, Fillmore West.
Yeah.
The carousel. My brother asked me to go a zillion times, and I was just like, I don't know what's going on up there, but
too many hippies.
I saw the trip, you know what I mean? I don't want to mess around, you know. But like it's like, you know, then the first time I went there, I was like, oh my God, man! It was like, because it was a gas. I mean, the apples, the guys with the cop hats, and the whole thing was just, that was right up my wheelhouse, man. I mean, I dug that so much. The billing that they would have, you know, it'd be like Buddy Rich, The Who, and so you got these 2 incredible drummers of different kind of thing. Mix it all up. Bolasete opened up from Bloomfield, and it was like, I was like,
Brazilian guitarist, acoustic guitarist.
Man, that night was Mike Finnegan group, Bolasete. Another band called Gold was the first band, and then Bloomfield with Chicago Slim. And man, it was like, what an evening. Because once I went into the Fillmore, I was like, why did I not come here? It was just stupid.
And you were how old back then?
I was in high school.
So you put out an album, tribute to Mike Bloomfield.
Yeah, and that was fantastic because Patrick Ford and Robin and all the guys, they loved Bloomfield too. So at some point, Patrick was making records on his label, Blue Rocket, and he thought, nobody ever does a Bloomfield tribute. It's like, if you know, you look on one of these guitar things, it's like the top 100 guitar players. Bloomfield's like number 92, and like the gal from the Bangles is number 7. What he did is he got all kinds of different stuff from Bloomfield's career, like some stuff from The Trip, some tunes from It's Not Killing Me, nice variety stuff. And Robin was on there, and it was a blast to make that record. And when we did it at the San Francisco Blues Festival, we did it with Nick Gravenice and Al Cooper. And Al Cooper was so pissed. I was playing this stuff note for note and stuff. It was like, he went on his thing and he was like, and then they were trying to play, no, why are they, you know, it was like just this whole thing.
Why was he upset about that?
I don't know, but I said the reason I do it is because I can. I had a blast doing that, you know what I mean? When I started killing my love and stuff, man, like with that tone and stuff, they went wild.
You're killing my love every way. You're killing my love day by day. And if you succeed, oh, it's gonna haunt you till your dying day. What you're doing is murder in the first degree. You don't dig your own self. Why take it out on me? You're killing my love. Lord, every way. And if you succeed, oh, it's gonna haunt you till your dying day. A lover is a person who knows how to give in. The things I give you, baby, well, I'll never see again. You're killing my love. Lord, every way. And if you succeed, oh, it's gonna haunt you till your dying day. You got me thinking murder, and you're not worth my time. You'll get what you deserve, baby. Later on down the line, you're killing my love. Lord, every way. And if you succeed, oh, it's gonna haunt you till your dying day. Oh, you're killing my love. Oh, you're killing my love. Every time I think about you, you're killing my love. Every time you don't answer the phone, I know you're home. You're killing my love. Oh, Lord.
I just loved it, like in such a way. I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know how he got that sound. But as I got older, I realized that he's not playing on the neck pickup most times. He's like in the middle or like down on the treble pickup. It took me a long time to get this because I had a dark sounding guitar and I wanted everything to sound warm and fat. And you can't have that. It's like one big marshmallow then. You got to have some, I didn't know this stuff, and I'm still learning, but
Do you think you were channeling him some way, like he was almost playing through you?
oh man, when I would go home from school and I would play those solos, it was like a great ride that you would go like ride at the amusement park. I mean, because like the way his ideas would form, I mean, it was like from here to there, and there. I mean, we just go from one thing to another, just to find out where everything was, and then to play it was like fun, man. It was like hilarious. I mean, I loved it. I'd come home from school, have a bowl of cereal, and I would do that for 4 hours till it was time to eat dinner. You know what I mean? Try to be Bloomfield today.
Did your folks have to fight you to do your homework?
Well, I was always like coming home from school about like 7, because I had to stay and write. I will not talk in class. I will not chew gum in class. I will not do anything in class but work. I was one of those guys. Just wouldn't shut up.
Did you ever play for the school?
Yeah, and that was the whole thing because I was invisible at my high school. Yeah, they didn't even know me. They'd walk right through me like I was a hologram. And then one day I went to my English class with my pal Sammy and my other buddies, and we demonstrated how to do a jam session. And it was the first time I ever got anything but a D in anything I did. And it was like I got an A on this thing. Like they totally dug it in the class. So then they said, hey, can you come at lunch break and play in the quad? So we went and played in the quad. And we just played the tunes we knew. But it was like overnight. Then it was like everybody was asking me to go to their party. But if I came to the party when I didn't have my guitar, it was like, you know what I mean? And I took that very hard.
When you'd go to these parties, you'd bring an acoustic guitar?
No, if I came to like my brother would have these parties that would like go on for like 2 days. He had a great stereo, so either we would go there and play at his party, and like we'd play for like one evening. It was a gas, you know what I mean? And that's where like I met Curtis Salgado for the first time. It's like we were all kids. Nobody could sing at this time. We would just play instrumental stuff. Nobody sang. And Gary Smith showed up at this party with this guy that looked like Alfred E. Newman. He had a T-shirt on and like, brown hair. And he got up and sang, man. And it was like people just about keeled over. Because, I mean, this is like a kid. Wow! I mean, he sang fantastic then, even. Like as a kid, he was amazing. Because, I mean, we didn't know anybody our age that sang, let alone like that. You know what I mean? It was like, whoa. I mean, totally blew our minds.
You're so fine. Wanna love you all the time. Yeah, you so fine, baby. Let me love you all the time. Well, I've got a girl, she's fine and brown. What I like about her, she's mine, all mine. She's so fine. She's so fine. She's a fine, healthy thing. I wanna love you all the time. Well, I give you all my money, buy you diamonds, everything. Say you be mine, baby, and we can make a romance. You so fine. Yeah, you so fine. Well, you a fine, healthy thing. I wanna love you all the time.
When you were in your room practicing in high school, were you singing for yourself?
No, I never sang. I mean, I wished I could. I tried it, and I was singing in my speaking voice. So I sound like Jerry Lewis with a trio, you know.
Can you give me an example?
I got a sweet little angel. You know, it's just, you're not buying it from that guy, you know. Just not going to buy it from him.
So how did you get your singing style then?
My pals would have these jams, like parties at their house, and we would go to wherever it was and we jam. So this one time, I took a 6-pack of Mickey's Big Mouth. I just found out about these beers. And I up this time, I could barely mess around with Budweiser, and still, you know, I mean, there could be problems later. But I had the Mickeys, you know, and I'm drinking these Mickeys, and these things are strong. I didn't realize that they were like a couple of octane higher or something. So now I got kind of loose. So when I go up to sing, I go to play Tore Down, and this thing came out. I mean, it was like nothing. I mean, because I knew I couldn't sing falsetto and all that stuff like B.B. King and those guys. I always listened to like Jimmy Witherspoon, Big Joe Turner. And so I came out and sang Tore Down, and I mean, like, man, you could have heard a pin drop, man. It was like everybody just, because I mean, this was coming out of me, and I couldn't believe it. I have the tape somewhere, because that's the first time that sound ever came out of me.
Give me a quick example of it.
Oh, man, it was like, it was like Big Joe Turner or like Jimmy Witherspoon, Time's getting tougher than tough, things getting rougher than rough. Just I knew I could make that sound, you know what I mean? So that's what I did. I would just sing down on that low kind of thing and put this big deal on it, and it kind of, you know what I mean? But I had no microphone chops.
When you say microphone chops, you're talking about like how you hold the mic.
Just, what you say. Thanks, everybody. How's everybody doing? You didn't want to do that, but I was like, I didn't have any snappy pattern. Like the first 10, 15 years that I played with my own band, the whole people could have left because I was just like in my little bubble playing for myself, just, having a blast playing the guitar. I really wasn't thinking about this room full of people. I was just like, hey, I'm glad they're here, but boom, I'm just doing my thing, And then maybe like about 15, 20 years ago from that right now, I opened my eyes one time and I looked around the room and I saw all these people's faces. There was people that were responding. I wasn't even connected to these folks. It was like an electric shock hit me. And I was just like, whoa. And from that moment on, I would open my eyes, I would look at people, I would interact with the room, and it was way better. My mother would always say, I don't know how you can get up in front of like 500 people and do that when you can't go and just talk to a person one-on-one. I don't know, but it's different for some reason. I got that thing or something. It's like I feel safe.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Hope to see you again, everybody. My honor to play this thing for you. Thank you.
You've been listening to an interview with blues guitarist, singer, and composer Chris Cain. The interview was conducted at his house in Copperopolis, California. This is Dan McClosky saying thanks for listening.